Welcome to the favorite part of my day when I get to chop it up with Frank Seravalli, the hockey insider, talking hockey for 60 minutes straight. We do it every Monday through Friday right here on Victory Plus. Monday, January the 19th, Frank, 2026. Happy birthday, Johnny Boychuk. 42 years old, 2011 Cup champ with the Bruins. He was plus 12 in that postseason. Good, hard, popular player for the Bruins. Cutter Gauthier is 22, and Thomas Vanek is 42. We talked about this, Frank, about being fortunate being on a good team in your career. Vanek played 1,029 regular season games, only 69 playoff games. Ryan McDonough, 1,029 regular season games, same as birthday boy Vanek, 196 playoff games. McDonough's been blessed to always be on good teams. He's contributed to those teams, but that's a big factor when you look at a player's career.
I feel like all of my first trade deadlines on TSN, all the first trade centers I did, I think Thomas Vanek was traded. It felt like he was traded every one of those.
One of those kinds of players. He could help us. He could help us. He could help us. So they end up being on a lot of teams because he can help them. 10 games today and tonight, Frank, on MLK Day, Martin Luther King Day. Yesterday, 68th anniversary. January 18th, 1958, Willie O'Ree with the Boston Bruins against the Montreal Canadiens in the Montreal Forum, making history as the first black player in the National Hockey League. So we have 10 games today and tonight. Very good board today and tonight. I love the board today and tonight. Can't wait to see where you're going to speculate to accumulate later in the show. We'll talk with Craig Button, all things Rasmus Andersson trade. We'll talk trade rumblings with Frank. Toews back to Chicago. But first, it's Frank's and Beans. I got my beans again. You got your Frank? Yeah. Connor McDavid, 2 more assists last night. One was unbelievable, Frank. 27th multi-point game. He's got more than McKinnon now, and now has a 3-point lead in the scoring race. Celebrini's then 10 back of McKinnon. Kucherov, 2 back of Celebrini. Leon, 3 back of Kucherov. Goals, only 2 guys have 30. McKinnon, 36. McDavid, 30. Then it's Robertson, Boldy, and look who's tied for 5th. DeBrincat, who's on a heater, 26, and Sidney Crosby, tied for 5th and goal scored this year. Patrick Kane, Frank, an assist last night. He's got 1,372 points. He needs 2 to tie Modano and 3 to pass. I'm calling the Red Wing Wild game Thursday on ESPN. I'd love to call history there. That'd be quite an honor. That would be it. Go, chew it up. Yeah. Lightning, 12-0-1 in their last 13. They're hot. Your wild card teams right now, Eastern Conference, Boston, Buffalo. The Bruins have won 8 of 10. What a weird year they've had up and down. They miss out on Anderson. We'll talk Rasmus Andersson trade in seconds. And Utah and San Jose, your wild card teams in the West. Frank, the Avalanche are in a slump. 2-3-1. Their last 6. Your thoughts? You concerned? Worried? Where's your concern meter?
-4. Yeah.
It's like to play that game on SportsCenter. Panic meter.
Yeah, it's limp.
Although it's interesting, Frank. This 2-3-1 slide has coincided with the Landeskog injury.
And Devon Toews.
And Devon Toews. Good call.
Not a big deal. You take 2 of those pieces out of your lineup. Look, in the end, I think the Avs, if they were to just float through the entire season and not face any adversity, what happens when the Columbus Blue Jackets punch you in the face in round 1 like they did with Tampa Bay Lightning? Look, you need some test. You need something to overcome. You need some bump in the road. I'd even hesitate to say 2-3-1 is it, but had it not been such a jam-packed weekend, we'd probably be talking about it a little bit more.
What about our Dallas Stars? They've lost 10 of 12, Frank. 3 straight L's. Again, just a team that's kind of like, well, wake me up when it's serious.
Well, but a team that really could have used Rasmus Andersson. And Blake Coleman, for that matter. But I don't know that they really have the assets to really go after it and chase it. But somehow Vegas does, and they come away with the prize.
Once you knew Vegas was involved, I'm like, they're going to get him. They get who they want, right? They're the steal your girlfriend organization.
I can understand why for every other team around the league or every fan base, they're like the axis of evil. They come in their first season, they go to the Stanley Cup final. They have no heartache, no heartbreak. They continually go after and get the best players. They wedge them in on the salary cap. They say goodbye to tough contracts and players and extricate themselves from bad situations. Doesn't matter who's upset or mad. It's a beautiful place to live if you're in the suburbs, and a great place to play hockey with lots going on around it. I mean, what's to not like?
Yeah, the players mostly live in Summerlin. That's where the practice rink is. There's a cool casino up there. There's great restaurants up there. They don't have to go to the Strip unless they play. And sounds like Mitchell Marner isn't quite all in yet, but everyone else loves it. We'll see. I think Mitch will learn to love it. Mickey Redmond announced he would take a medical leave, cervical spine surgery. He's got to fix that neck, giving him some problems. What a great listen he and Ken Daniels are every night, the Red Wings. So he's going to step away for a while, but should be back later in the year. Good to see the players giving him fist bumps, Frank, on the way to the room last night.
I mean, what an incredible career and what a well-liked broadcaster and just NHL legend, how long he's been around. So tough to see, I'm sure, for him to step away for a little bit, but with the Olympic break, it's one of those situations where you got to take advantage. And if it means missing a couple games to come back healthier later for the stretch run, good for Mickey Redmond to get it done.
He's the human campfire. That's how I would describe him. There's a glow around a campfire. There's a warmth. You're smoking your cigar. You're drinking a little bourbon. You're around a little campfire. That whole scene, to me, I want to sit with Mickey Redmond, have my glass of brown, little cigar next to a campfire or even a fake one, and just hear him tell stories. That would be like that's a bucket list thing for me. So, Mickey, can we make that happen? I'll come up to Michigan. I'll come see you.
What would
and then one more, Frank.
Brown water for the day. Like what would be your go-to choice?
I don't have to go crazy. Like a nice Buffalo Trace, Elijah Craig. They're both $30 a bottle.
First thing I had in mind was Buffalo Trace when I asked the question.
Yeah, great product. Been to the distillery down there in Kentucky. Phenomenal place. Great tour. Good field trip. History and
field trip.
Topography and buildings. Love it. I love it. I love the history.
The kind of field trip I want to take, the not sober one.
Yeah, right from scratch, right from the mash, right to the end. It's a great day. And finally, the Kings have been struggling, Frank. They've lost 6 of 7 consecutive losses to the Ducks in the Freeway Face-Off Series. The team has the most overtime and 1-goal losses in the league this year. That's kind of, again, that's their quest, is they know that they're good, but they need these high echelon players, and now they're trying to go get them. And the question is, will they be able to this year? Will they answer the Rangers' love letter and maybe go after Panarin?
Well, they tried to get in on the Rasmus Andersson conversation and were told that he wouldn't extend there. So that was another team that was in the mix among the handful over the last week or so with the Calgary Flames.
And one quick shout out, the Crossing Swords podcast sent me this in the mail. This is me and AJ Malesko. We were on the air and they gave us this 3-foot-long Tage Thompson chicken parm sub. Someone took a picture of their TV and then they made a t-shirt of it. So I love it.
And they pretty much haven't lost since.
And they haven't lost since. They're like 14-1.
Yeah. You're
welcome, Buffalo. All right, let's get to the Frankly Hockey rundown. Rasmus Andersson traded. Frank, he's an all 3-phase defenseman. Power play, 5-on-5 numbers. The Flames, with Andersson on the ice this year, outscored their opponents +8. When he wasn't on the ice, -25. He can kill penalties. He can run a power play. 5-on-5, he's dependable. Reunited, and it feels so good with Noah Hannafin. Again, we sound like Boston was the leader in the clubhouse, but suddenly here comes Vegas again. They seem to get what they want, and suddenly we have a furious 5 in the Western Conference as Rasmus Andersson, Zach Whitecloud goes the other way, Abram Wiebe, he's a defenseman for North Dakota, and a first-round pick, 2027, conditional second, that could become a first as well if Vegas wins the Cup. And so when you saw this happening, take us through, because you had a lot of good inside stuff on Friday, and then tell me what happened over the weekend.
Well, there's a lot of people who believe today that a lot of the discussions that went on with the Boston Bruins were a bit of a smokescreen, that this was always going to land on Vegas, because what changed dramatically in the last 24 hours was the Andersson camp informed the Flames on Sunday morning that, hey, we're not signing an extension with anyone. We're going naked, so to speak. Trade me to wherever you want within my contract provisions, and let's just make this happen, because this has gone on long enough. Between the endless speculation, the high fives with teammates exiting the ice at the Dome for his last game on Saturday afternoon as part of Hockey Day in Canada, which you see right here. Rasmus Andersson knew it was time. The Calgary Flames knew it was time. And no extension, it changed the board dramatically. The Boston Bruins aren't willing to do a deal without an extension. Other teams that wanted to engage in conversation about an extension, that doesn't happen. So some teams dropped out. Others significantly lessened their offer. And they're here standing left, the only one, the Vegas Golden Knights, willing to do it without an extension because, well, they've got either the confidence or the knowledge that they'll be able to get a deal done going back to last summer, since Andersson had signaled privately that Vegas was at the very top of his list. So they did not grant permission to the Vegas Golden Knights to talk extension. So that's why you don't see it materialize right away. I'd imagine it's a couple days, a couple weeks. It won't be very long before we see Rasmus Andersson locked up. And in the end, I think that's the prism that you have to view this return for the Calgary Flames. It's not spectacular, but given the circumstances and given the control that the Andersson camp had, they did a fine job.
Yeah, interesting that Abram Wiebe, one of the defensemen currently at North Dakota, of course, their head coach is Dane Jackson. Flames assistant GM Brad Pascal, they were roommates at North Dakota in 1988. So I'm sure he gave him a call. What about this Wiebe, this young defenseman? Big, strong kid, 6'3", 200, runs their second power play. So they probably look at him as an NHL possible 4, 5, 6 kind of a guy. And like you said, a 1, maybe 2 1s. But in the end, I was wondering, Frank, like how close were the Bruins for our Bruins fans watching? Do you think in that situation, does the Andersson camp say, yeah, we'll extend for 8 times 9.5? Like maybe they see what their number is and ask for more to see if they can get it. Or you think he's like, no, I want to go to Vegas. That's where I want to be. Western part of the country. I've been in the mountain time zone in Calgary, and it's tax free. And I hear the weather's great. And the Swedes on the team have told me it's nice that I know there. What do you think happened there?
Oh, and I can play with Noah Hannafin again. That's easy.
Yep.
What I believe is the Bruins were very interested, that they had put together a package that I believe ultimately the Flames preferred. And it was all dependent on getting the extension done and getting Rasmus Andersson to agree to it. And I think they engaged in good faith. I believe the Boston Bruins put a deal on the table that was close or in the neighborhood of 7 years times $9 million for $63 million. But in the end, wasn't going to get it done because I don't believe it was the preferred destination. So it wasn't really about the money or the terms for the Flames. It was probably the preferred deal to make, but they couldn't get it across the finish line because in the end, you need player to agree. And that's where the control was lost. So look, Vegas, they go out, as you mentioned, they get their guy. They find a way to get him in the boat. Doesn't matter what they have to move on from. They really like Zach Whitecloud, and I think he's going to be an interesting piece that the Flames could either keep or flip. But this Vegas blue line this season without Alex Pietrangelo really needed an addition like this, as you can see, to vault them back into that circle of cup contenders. Because I think the ups and downs of this season and how that's all played out, we talked about the rut that they had went through recently. It's predicated on the way that they defend. They can score goals. They play well off the rush. As a team, they defend exceptionally hard, but they needed one more body, and Andersson gives them that in a big way.
And of course, Braden McNabb is not on that list right there. He would be part of that 6. Lausanne's not going to be quite up there. So now you go, like you said, Hannafin, Andersson, Theodore's awesome. And McNabb is obviously a solid playoff guy who's had a couple nice goals this year as well. And so you add that, who knows, they might even try to go get one more at the deadline somewhere along the line. For the Bruins, that just would have been an Andersson, Lindholm, Zadorov, McAvoy top 4, or even maybe put Zadorov 5, 6 at some point, and maybe even get another piece that you can see for McAvoy. But that would have been a big ad for them.
Yeah, and Lowry would have been a way better fit, Mason Lowry in Calgary, than I think Zach White. Not that Zach Whitecloud isn't good. It's just that Lowry is a bit younger and fits their age scheme a lot better. And now you ask the question, is Whitecloud here for the long haul, or is that a guy that they flip to then increase the sort of return on this trade? And it's a really funny scenario with the conditions on this deal. So the 2027 first round pick is top 10 protected. And so obviously the 2028 moves to a 2028 first round pick if the Golden Knights win the cup this year. But the thing is,
right.
Calgary already holds the 2026 first round pick of the Vegas Golden Knights. So in an odd way, it's like, what are we rooting for here? Do we want that first round pick, the extra, 30 slots in 2028? Or do we want a worse pick? If that happens, we get a worse pick this year than we otherwise would. We'd be picking 32. So it's this weird dynamic where I don't know if you know what to root for if you're in Calgary this year.
And that now begs the question, what else can the Flames do? Whether it's flip White Cloud for a second or third round pick, or obviously there's Blake Coleman, who's got, a 10-team trade list, I believe. There's other stuff there. I mean, what else can Calgary do to continue to accumulate, reimagine as they get ready for their new rink to open in a year and a half?
Yeah, so they're still searching for that timeline, right? That's when they'd really like to be competitive. But the fun part about this deadline now, if you're a Calgary Flames fan, is this is a huge piece of business off your plate. You've reduced the risk or eliminated the risk with Andersson being gone in terms of injury from the Olympics. You've gotten that off your plate. And now, do you remember back in the day when like Zillow first started, you could like put your home on the market, but it was like for an outrageous price. And you'd say like, make me move. Well, they kind of have a very similar thing now with Blake Coleman and Nazem Kadri. Make me trade him. Present something that gets us out of our chair to move these guys because they have term. They don't need to. And Blake Coleman is in demand. I reported last month that 20 teams already this season have checked in on Blake Coleman's availability. You look at what these guys are going for on the center market with regards to Nazem Kadri, and you see Dvorak, $5.15 million. Wenberg, $6 million. All of a sudden, Nazem Kadri at 7, guy who can score double the amount of goals as those two guys, even at the age of 35. I'm excited. Like, would you sign Nazem Kadri to a 3x7 deal in the summer? I think you would. So that's a guy that they can also shop around. Don't have to, but if you find something that fits and works, by all means, cash in. And if anything, I feel like this Andersson trade, Bucci, really clarifies how important it is to make that trade 1 year ago. It was an unspectacular return because of the way that it developed and the control that was ceded with regards to the extension. Had you done it a year ago when an extension isn't possible, not only would a team have gotten 2 playoff runs with Rasmus Andersson on this very manageable contract, but you wouldn't have had to deal with the leverage and control being given to the outside parties. So the tough part for the Flames is they had convinced themselves last year, and understandably so with the math, this same day last year, the Calgary Flames woke up in the 8th spot in the West. They were in a wild card spot. They were in a playoff position. But they convinced themselves, we have to hang in here and see what happens. When in reality, I think everyone knew the direction that this was trending. Didn't think they'd be kind of right exactly where they are this season, but you got to make that trade last year to maximize the return because it really hampered you and limited you this time around. And that's the chief complaint for Flames fans.
Yeah, Blake Coleman, 13 goals this year, 20 to 25 goal pace. He had 30 a couple of years ago. He's a plus 10 on not a very good team. And only 668 NHL games. A lot of 34 years old, but again, he played 4 years of college, so he's got some tread in that tire. 2-time Stanley Cup champion with Tampa Bay, and boy, that furious 5 out west, Frank. Colorado, Dallas, Edmonton, Minnesota, now Vegas certainly fortifies their position. They're already an elite defensive team with really good offensive talent, Stone, Marner, Eichel. And now if they get some goaltending, maybe this will help fortify, maybe the goalies will feel better. This just to make everybody be better. But man, Vegas probably already in that mix, but this really puts them there. Man, that Western Conference playoff is going to be just absolutely insane. The teams that are going to get bounced in the first round and not make their destination that they're all really geared up and amped up to get to. Obviously, only one's going to make the final, and the other 4 are going home. And that transfers a little bit to the west of Calgary and south, and that's Vancouver. And Elias Pettersson, Are we going to see him move this year, Frank, before the deadline?
There's a growing suspicion around the league that we will. And I can just tell you from the volume of calls, the interest that the Vancouver Canucks have fielded, that it feels like it's trending in that direction and that he's gaining some traction on the trade market. And you see his numbers this year, south of a point per game, 29 points in 40 games. This season has come in fits and starts. Obviously, he's been dealing with some struggles off the ice and in his family life, which you certainly feel for him. And it's a really intriguing situation in part because of how we evaluate the center market as a whole. Think about what we just talked about with Dvorak, Wenberg, Kadri. Well, you stretch a little bit and you say, if we can unlock what we saw from Elias Pettersson before, 40 goals and 100 points, man, 11.6 million doesn't really feel like that big of a risk or reach. And so teams have reevaluated the situation and said, we can't find difference makers at this position. If we truly believe that he can become one again, then let's go after him. And so, look, it's been a lot harder to pinpoint the teams that are in the mix, but I really wonder about the Detroit Red Wings. They're right there on that cusp in the Atlantic of being right at the very top of it. What would Pettersson do for that team down the middle with some other high-skilled players?
Turns 28 early next season. He'll have 6 more years on his deal after this year at 11.6, like you said. That's the AAV. It's a pretty hefty number for a guy. But again, if he is what he was when he signed that deal and what they thought he would be, like you said, perhaps that's something. It's always interesting to see, what does Stevie Y think when he watches him play, and does he think he can be better? Does he think, I just would love that, what someone's true opinion of these players is very interesting to me.
Well, here's another way to frame that conversation. And just FYI, this wasn't with the Red Wings, but this was one that I had with another executive from another team last week. I said, is Pettersson a fit for you? And he said, not really a perfect one, not really stylistically, but it's so hard to get quality players at that position that I think we'd have to take a swing anyway. And I thought that was really the perfect way to explain how thin the center market is that even if sometimes you feel like you're jamming a square peg into a round hole, you might have to try, because if somehow you can unlock that same productivity that we had before from him, or even close to it, 11.6 is not going to hurt.
Yeah, 3 straight years, 32 goals, 39 goals, 34 goals. And then he had that awful playoff with 1 goal and 13. And maybe the scarring and whatever had happened, it had already started to happen. And now, obviously a couple of bad teams, and has 28 goals in his last 104 games. But again, this year, a good second half, maybe he can get closer to 30 again. And then he'll be that, again, 102 points, 89 points. If you get, like you said, if you're 90 to 100, if we can get him back there, then you'd have no problem paying that ticket of 11.6. Right.
Well, and I think that's how we've arrived here from a Canucks standpoint. I think they've waffled and vacillated on this file. Hey, why can't he be our catalyst to drive us out of this rebuild, retool, what a hybrid retool, whatever phrase the Canucks terminology du jour is. I mean, look, moving forward, they're at the very bottom of the standings by a pretty wide margin at this point in time. If Pettersson goes, who's playing center for the Vancouver Canucks moving forward? A really fair question to ask, but I think they might have to try and cash in, because what about the downside of that? What if this is all Pettersson remains? You're going to really lose significant value if time continues to pass. But there's plenty of teams out there still thinking we can reinvigorate this guy, we can rejuvenate him, we need to give him a change of scenery.
Jonathan Toews back in Chicago tonight. First time as an opponent. The Winnipeg Jets, 3 cups, of course, with the Hawks, the captain, the Conn Smythe in 2010. He was a 22-year-old third-year player, Frank, when he won that Conn Smythe. 22 assists in 22 playoff games, 29 points in all. He was 60% face-off success as a 22-year-old in the postseason that year. Oh, by the way, the Hawks, during that great decade, they're 3 Conn Smythe winners. Toews, Kane, Keith. Kind of cool. Each of them got 1. By the way, the first Conn Smythe, 1965, Jean Beliveau. There were no Conn Smythe winners before 1965. Toews also won a Selke. His highest MVP finish was 4th in voting. It's been 11 years, Frank, since Chicago won that third cup in that run. 2015 over the Lightning. Jonathan Toews, the ovation will be thunderous tonight in Chicago.
Can't wait to see it. And he admitted heading in an interview with our friend Sarah Orleski that, hey, it's exciting and makes him kind of sad at the same time. There's still that twinge of, man, what an incredible run it was, and can't believe I don't play there anymore. I think there's certainly part of that he feels. And it's really interesting to try and size up his season, because I think as a whole, everyone in Winnipeg is really disappointed with this campaign. And there was so much excitement for the hometown kid, and that ovation that he got in Winnipeg to open the season, like, it made the hair on the back of your neck stand up, because to think that, kid from Winnipeg Jets 1.0 goes and does incredible things on the NHL stage, comes back for Jets 2.0, something that he probably for most of his adult life, it wasn't even a possibility or a thought. Then to have it play out the way that it has, I mean, from basically 1st to 31st, and hasn't exactly gone to plan for Toews as a whole, productivity-wise, what matchups he can take on, all those different things. This has been a grind of a season. And to think that you now get to this point where you get to go back to Chicago, that's exciting. But you go back as a player who hasn't been what he once was, and maybe a reminder of exactly that.
3 cups in 6 years. Yeah, he turns, 38 in April. So we're coming up. This is a 38-year-old man who took 2 seasons off. His last year in Chicago was the 22-23 season. This year, as we just see right there, 7 goals, 11 assists, 47 games. It'll be interesting to see where, the Jets certainly can still, they have the team that could maybe go on a run, win those 8-9 games in a row that these teams are doing once in a while. Buffalo, Boston, where can that take them? Hellebuck gets healthy and they start rolling and find their rhythm. And what could that mean for Toews going forward? Or, will anybody look at him as a guy maybe to bring in for whatever reason? Overall, what are you hearing in that regard?
Not much. I don't think there's been a ton of overwhelming interest. Maybe he's one of those guys that does move on deadline day kind of thing, but he would have to really want to do that as well, because the Jets aren't trading him if he doesn't want it. So that's certainly part of it. And by the way, would you be speculating on a Toews anytime goal scorer tonight? Here's Patrick Kane's return to the United Center, in case you forget. 2023 first game back for Patrick. This is Jonathan Toews' last game, at the United Center before fading the crowd as he went off the ice. And Patrick Kane, his first game back with the Red Wings, he scored the OT winner. So I don't know. I'm sure Hawks fans are going to be excited to see him, no doubt. I wonder what kind of damage, if any, he does on the ice. What do you think?
Yeah, it'll be something. We'll see with the hockey guards. They took care of Ryan Nugent-Hopkins last night. He scored in his 1,000th NHL game, as he did in his first. Pretty cool to score in your first and your 1,000th. That list has got to be a little bit small. But Toews signed a 1-year deal. It's a $2 million cap hit. So who knows? Maybe he goes to them and say, I'm going to retire, trade me to Chicago and play your last, run it out in Chicago and sell the place out and kind of go out as a Hawk. I mean, that's a team that might welcome that and just kind of have Connor Bedard sit next to him for a couple months, what it means to be a Hawk. He likely will be the captain next year.
I don't see that at all. I don't
see that. No,
I think the Hawks have moved on. They've ripped the Band-Aid off. And I think if anything, if he's not going to play after this year, he would just stay a Jet. That's just my guess.
All right. Let's move on to the Ottawa Senators. They say defense wins championships. And of course, in the NHL, defense primarily means goaltending first. You can make some saves, you can make a save, you can have a save. It can cover up a lot of things. Ottawa has used 5 goalies this year, Frank. They've allowed the 6th most goals. They're 6 points out of a wild card. There it is. There's the lineup. Hunter Shepard, wanted in 3 provinces and 20 states. No, Hunter was he's a back-to-back national champion at Minnesota Duluth. I've known him for a long time. He looked like he was 40 when he was 19. So he's part of this lineup. Again, Sens 2-4-2 in their last 8. They've allowed 34 goals in that span. Sens goaltending, optional this year, Frank.
Optional, but it's their season swirling down the drain as it's been optional. Linus Ullmark and the strange leave of absence that he's had. He's still kind of been in the building and been around the team, but hasn't played. Levi Merilainen, players are kind of throwing their hands up at this point in time. If you heard Jake Sanderson and the coach after Saturday's game, hey, I think at the end of the day, you've got to make more than 10 saves to win a game. He was 10 for 16 in terms of saves and shots. Not good, sources say. And the problem is they don't have anyone else to throw in there. James Reimer signed, yes, and he plays on Sunday. I mean, but it's an unenviable position. And so where do the Sens go from here?
There's a lot of they're probably just going to kind of stand pat and just kind of ride this whole year out. Like you said, it's been dicey. They're probably going to say, hey, the answers are in the room. You guys got to make a run here in the next month, pretty much right up until the deadline. We'll see what they do. And long term, as we talked about, I thought the Sens were not quite there in the playoffs last year during that Maple Leaf series. I think it showed that they were maybe down a player or two. Then you got obviously Giroux's just getting older and Perron another year older. And is this the core that they love? And what are they going forward? So I think there's a lot of questions in Ottawa going forward, just on how the players respond to their commitment there and sticking this out. And last night they were pretty good against Detroit. The game went to overtime. But in the end, the Red Wings, who have kind of a mojo this year and that the Ottawa doesn't, came out victorious.
I mean, to me, this goaltending situation is period, full stop, right on management, because they've asked way too much of Levi Merilainen at this point in time. Too many games. I think he played 11 in a row at one point. That's not fair. Tough spot for him to be in. And look around the league. Teams have found solutions to their goaltending this year. I mean, the Canes, Brandon Bussey has been an unbelievable story. The Edmonton Oilers, they bring in Connor Ingram and he's stabilized their year. The Toronto Maple Leafs are very soon to have one extra goalie. The Montreal Canadiens have been carrying one extra goalie. There's someone out there to go and get, but their season is swirling down the drain as a result of them waiting and standing here. So you can point to the players and say, hey, it's on you. And certainly they need to be better, but they've been put in a really tough spot with some poor support in net. And when push comes to shove, this 10, 15 game sample size of the season may determine whether they make or miss the playoffs.
All right. Interesting stuff in Ottawa. With that in mind, our guest today, once again, Craig Button, TSN analyst, director of scouting. And Frank, when we logged off on Friday, the New York Rangers, obviously a letter went out after our show. So we haven't been able to talk about that. And I think that's a good question to start our discussion with Craig Button with. And hello, Craig.
Hello, John. How are you doing today, Frank? How are you doing?
Good. We're doing great. And people love to write letters and put out statements these days, Craig. And why so public a decision by the Rangers, Chris Drury, the front office to have that kind of a transparent public letter? Why not just do that within the walls? What's the purpose of that? I asked from an ignorant point of view.
No, I don't think. I mean, John and Frank, you ran in the media for a lot of years and had a lot of success. And I think you used the word transparency. And I think in the quest to be transparent, there's this idea that somehow is good. Do you know what really concerned me? Okay, you want to send out a letter. Okay, great. Tell everybody what you're doing, however you want to do it. But how about the players that came back and said, oh, we were puzzled by this. What does this mean? How does this, so in your quest to be transparent, were you transparent with the most important part of your organization, the players? It seems like there was some steps that were missed here. Go in and talk to your players. Here's what we're thinking. Here's what we're doing, whatever, and go from there. But when I'm reading about players, geez, I'm puzzled by what this meant. And where do we go from here? How do we do it? Wonderful, great. You know what? You send out a letter. Your team's no good. It's at the bottom of the Eastern Conference. You're going to miss the playoffs for the second year in a row. But it's good to know. It's good to know that you've let everybody know that you want to get players that skate fast, compete hard, have skill. We'll play defense. We'll help you win. Wow. Geez, you know what it is? It's a revelation. Who knew? Who knew teams wanted players like this? I didn't know, but thanks. I'm glad to know.
Okay. To be fair, the Rangers did individually talk to their leadership core and certain players before the letter was sent out. I'm not picking up for them, just letting you know what the backstory was. And I thought Mike Sullivan personally hit it on the head. He goes, we all know how this business works. We're at the bottom of our conference. There's going to be repercussions to this. No team stays together, period, but particularly not one that's underperforming the way that we have to this point in time. So there really shouldn't be very many surprises. My question for you, Craig, and what I've struggled to answer over this weekend as I've spent the last 3 days thinking about it is, what is the core of the New York Rangers? Aside from Igor Shesterkin, they've got a couple nice pieces. Braden Schneider on the back end, I think could be a real nice piece. Adam Fox, if you want to keep him, sure. Will Cooley is a nice middle six forward. After that, I go, who is the core of the New York Rangers? What is the core of the New York Rangers?
Well, I think you've asked the great question. What is? And in fairness, like you talked to the leadership group, Braden Schneider was one of the guys that said he was puzzled. You don't just talk to a few of your players, you talk to all your players. They're the key guys. The players know the deal. This is what makes me laugh, and I'll be straightforward with you. It makes me laugh. You don't think the players don't know the deal? You don't think the players don't know that there's change? These players have grown up with it. They get traded in junior hockey. We have the transfer portal now in college hockey. This is nothing new. They know if they don't perform, they could be traded. This is not, like I said, it's no revelation here. I don't care if you want to talk to your leadership group. You left people puzzled. Their words, not mine. So, and Mike Sullivan, he's telling us, wow, you've underperformed. Have they underperformed? Maybe they're not that good, Frank, to your point. Maybe they don't have a core other than Shesterkin. Maybe they have performed exactly as they should have performed. Expectations get skewed. And I've said this, I don't know how many times I'll say it for forever. You need to see your team as it is. Not as you thought it was, not as you hoped that it was, not that you went to church and prayed for what it could be. It's about what you are. And the New York Rangers are no good. I don't know, what have you underperformed? They're no good. They started the year no good. They're still no good. So thanks. We're going to try to be better. Lovely. Great letter. You know what? Nice letterhead. Great. They should frame it.
Yeah, you wonder about New York. Obviously I know that those sponsorships, these people write big checks to have advertising all over MSG, the men's room, the hockey boards, the ticket prices these people pay. Like you said, maybe they feel like they have to be transparent with, their advertisers and their fans because of the prices they pay and to be transparent that way. But it's just odd to me to write a letter like that, release it publicly. I'm not sure what the purpose, as opposed to having a news conference and talking about it. That seems more personal to me, to have a news conference and do it that way, be in the media and talk to the fans that way.
I agree with you, John. Be upfront about it. Just say, hey, listen, we find ourselves at a point here where we're completely, dissatisfied with our performance. And we know what comes with when you perform this way. We know what comes with it. We know that this is a results business. And you go on from there. Again, but now you send out a letter. It's faceless. It really is faceless. I mean, I know it's under New York Rangers letterhead and everything, but again, you've left people. Okay, what does this mean? What are we going to do? How does this work? What does this? And now, what's everybody writing? Frank, you know this better than anybody. What's everybody writing? Oh, all eyes on New York now. This could be the big moves before the pre-Olympic trade freeze, right? So. Great, if that's what you want. Well, you've added a spotlight to your team, and now everybody's going to speculate about what you could or couldn't do. I mean, again, teams are always trying to improve yourself. You're always trying to be the best you can be. If you can, when I was a manager, I told the players, listen, I'm not looking to trade any particular player. I'm not here to come in and say you're being traded. But if I can improve the team, I'm going to look at every possible way, and that means anybody that anything that can make sense for our team to be better has to be considered. And so, again, the players know the deal. This is not new to the players. And so, again, I think standing up in front of it would have been a better course of action.
With all due respect to both of you, I think the letter is just window dressing. Like, I'm really way more interested in the substance and meat of this whole process and how we got here from a holistic 35,000 point view, which is 8 years ago, Jeff Gorton sent out a letter and said, we're going to rebuild. And it was not something that the New York Rangers do. So in your view, Craig, did we get here because the Rangers aborted the rebuild halfway through and didn't see it through? Did they get impatient? Like, they were on the right track, it seemed like, in accumulating, and then they somehow had a premature evacuation of the plan and said, hey, we're gonna we got to get to the conference final and compete. We're ready to go. We're chasing a Stanley Cup. And it was like they left their plan half baked, and now they're right back in the same spot where I'm asking questions about who exactly is the core of this team.
Yeah, and I think that's a legitimate question. They won the President's Trophy 2 seasons ago. I don't think that was accidental. You know, we know they have a franchise goaltender in Shesterkin, and he can win you games on his own, and we know that, right? But you don't win the President's Trophy by accident. That's 82 games tells you a pretty significant story. I don't think it's so much that they go half baked, Frank. I think they made some really poor decisions with respect to who they added, who they didn't add, what opportunities were there. Again, you know, sport is about opportunity, right? Like, it's opportunity for you to show that you're better than you are. It's opportunity for management and ownership to say, we're going to go after it. I mean, the Vegas Golden Knights, since they entered the league in 2017, they have shown that way that, like, we're going after it. We're serious about it. We're not going to sit here and say that every move we make is right. Every move that we make is brilliant. Every move is going to work out. But they work with the idea that opportunity is going to present itself in different ways. And they go out and they're aggressive. And they're not the only ones. The Colorado Avalanche last year, they know they have a good team. They said, our goaltending's terrible. So they didn't get one goalie, they went and got two. And now you look at where they're at in terms of their standing and what they're trying to do. I think the failure of the New York Rangers was in their inability to take advantage of opportunity. I think they had enough there. And I think they made some missteps that have left them in this spot. And again, you're right. The letter comes out from Jeff Gorton, and, you know, here we are again. Like, I mean, did the letter change in any way, shape, or form in terms of its intent? I don't know. But I mean, Chris did say that it's not going to be a rebuild; it's going to be a retool, and we're going to try to do it in a way that allows us to have these types of players. But it just feels like they missed opportunity more, Frank, than, you know, taking the casserole out of the oven too soon.
It was interesting. Friday letter news dump, and then go to California for 3 games starting tonight when the games start at 10:30 at night in New York. It's like they're taking a week off. They got the Ducks tonight. They got the Kings Tuesday. They got the Sharks on Friday. So it's pretty much like the Rangers are going away for about 7-8 days, right in the middle of the NFL playoffs and everything else. We have to get your opinion on the Rasmus Andersson big deal, Craig. What does this do for Vegas, and what is Calgary thinking?
Well, I think number one is that let's talk with Vegas. I mean, you lose Alex Pietrangelo, and Rasmus Andersson comes in to me, and it's a fantastic move and addition for the Vegas Golden Knights. He can play with Noah Hannafin. That allows an excellent pair that have shown their worth in significant ways in Braden McNabb and Shea Theodore to play together. I mean, what Bruce Cassidy and Kelly McCrimmon found out was, you know, we can have Zach Whitecloud, we can have Caden Korzak, we can have some of these other players try to fill in Jeremy Lauzon, but they're not top 2 pair defensemen. So if you're serious about winning the Stanley Cup, you got to look at where opportunity arises to try to fix something that, you know, really put a hole in their lineup with Alex Pietrangelo's injury. And I think they did exactly that with Rasmus Andersson. I think for Craig Conroy, I mean, again, you're getting Zach Whitecloud, a functioning defenseman, and steady, consistent, and you want to insulate some of your younger players. You get a first-round draft pick, you get a prospect, and Adam Weeb has continued to develop. You take a chance somewhere. You're going to take a chance on somewhere. I'm not going to tell you that Adam Weeb is automatic in the NHL, but you take a chance somewhere on somebody, obviously, that you've been watching and trying to keep tabs on, and then you go from there. And I think for the Calgary Flames, getting a player back and a steady player in Zach Whitecloud, helps their group. It helps their younger defensemen. You don't want to throw these young guys into the mix before they're ready. And I think that insulating them with Whitecloud, who has a couple of years left, helps them. But I mean, it's a fantastic move in my view for the Vegas Golden Knights, and I think that moves them a lot. I should say a lot closer, but certainly closer to the Colorado Avalanche, and hopefully gives them a little bit of distance in the Pacific Division, which is what they're really ultimately hoping for.
And that's what I wanted to drill down on you with, is if you were to look at your power rankings, your top 5 in the West, is Vegas clearly in front of Edmonton now in your view in the Pacific? And where would you slot them in with Colorado, Dallas, and Minnie?
Well, Dallas has really struggled here over the last while. I mean, Baker's
Wild have caught them.
Yeah, they have. And, there was talk about Dallas and Colorado. Well, it's Minnesota and Dallas now. So, I mean, Edmonton, you go and you keep moving forward, and they're moving forward, and, they're a good team. We know they're a good team. For me, it's Colorado. Obviously, that's an easy one, right? I think Vegas has put themselves in a better position in the Pacific and ahead of Edmonton. And now what you have is you have a Dallas team, a Minnesota team, and an Edmonton team that is really trying to kind of navigate where are they going to go from here. I mean, I think Dallas would have been a perfect fit for Rasmus Andersson. I think they need that type of a defenseman. Minnesota, we've seen what they're done. They're aggressive. And for the Edmonton Oilers, we'll see what they're capable of doing in terms of additions. But the way I see it now, it's Colorado at the top of the Central, Vegas at the top there, and then those next 3 teams I think have differentiated themselves enough where, those are the top 5 teams. I mean, the unfortunate thing about it is 2 and 3 are going to play in the first round of the playoffs in the Central Division. You're going to lose one of your very best teams first round of the playoffs. And all that does is open up discussion on should the playoff format be changed, which, seems to be something we talk about every year.
Yeah, they're the furious 5 out west. That's what the Stars have lost 10 to 12, Craig. And Minnesota suddenly, the goaltending isn't quite what it was. It's a long season, man. And these little bumps happen to everybody just about.
They sure do. And I think it's about navigating the bumps. It's about how do you manage through it. I mean, it's a compressed schedule. We got the Olympic break coming up. There's going to be a rejuvenation for the 550 players or so that aren't playing in the Olympics. I think there's going to be an excitement for the players that are going to the Olympics, but there's going to be an inevitable, lull when they come back, whether that's for a week and that's 3 games or 4 games. I think teams have to manage for that. For an example, Colorado's going into Ottawa and Montreal. I said this, that if I'm in Colorado, I'm telling McCarr and McKinnon, you're not playing both those games, and one of you is playing one and one of you is playing the other. I'm starting to rest some of my players. I am. And to try to understand that, it is a long season, an 82 game, and those guys are going to be playing lots at the Olympics. I want to make sure that I don't leave myself short come playoff time.
Last one for me, Craig. Jonathan Toews makes his return to Chicago tonight. You've watched Winnipeg very closely this season among all the other teams. What have you seen from Toews, and how would you describe this season? I use the word, it's been a grind. What would you say is the most accurate way to sum up how he's played?
Well, I think it's been the best of times and the worst of times for him. The worst of times happened, I think the enthusiasm, the adrenaline of starting out again was evident. And then for 25 games, it was a struggle. It was a grind for Jonathan. The last 8, 9, 10 games have been really good for Jonathan Toews. And, it seems that he's up to the pace of the game. One of the things that I felt was really lacking in Jonathan's games was his hands. And when you don't play for 2 full seasons, you try to find how quick your hands have to be. I could see a lot of games where he was trying to do the right things, but the hands weren't cooperating. And I think now his hands are really back to form and helping him become a more a more productive player offensively. And I think the move with Gabe Vilardi going on that line, Perfetti finding his game, has really helped Jonathan. I think it's helped give him some players that can aid him in areas where he's not as strong anymore. And I think his brains and finding his game right now is helping those guys. So I think if he can keep building on these last 10 or so games, then it's a good sign. And keep in mind, it was a full 2 seasons he didn't play in the National Hockey League, and certainly, trying to find his way back, the energy and the enthusiasm that he had for trying to find his way back, it was all there. But that's a long time to be away, and I think that, like I said, signs are good the last 10 games.
Yeah, he's got 3 power play goals. He's starting to circle the net and get those kinds of playoff goals, right? He's 63% face-off. I just think there'd be a market for him, for someone to add him. Again, I guess maybe that's an agent discussion too. You talk to the agent, he talks to Jonathan, are you all in? Especially if it's a good team like a Dallas or Colorado or Florida. You want to give that a shot, and what he could do. I don't know. There might be something there. It's going to be fun to watch. He's just, it's such an important part of NHL history, and it's going to be great to see him go back in Chicago tonight as Jonathan Toews returns to Chicago for the first time in a different uniform. Great performance as always, Craig.
I want to ask you guys a quick question.
Give me a nugget.
Okay, a nugget for both of you. And there's probably no right answer, but Jonathan Toews, you think about when he arrived in Chicago and the dark times they'd come out of. Should he be considered the face of the Chicago Blackhawks franchise all time?
Oh, man.
I'm not even looking for an answer. I'm just putting it out there for you guys to think about.
Quick answer, no.
Yeah,
I think there's 2. I think Hall, Makita, and
it's Makita for me.
You go back to a lot of that's nostalgia and hockey cards, and then when there's a mystery to the game with less video and stuff. And wow, that's a great one, man. Yeah, people forget, like you said, 19 years old when he got here. There were the Drek of all-time Dreks in any professional sports organization. And as I said at the top of the show, Craig, he won that Conn Smythe 3rd year in the league, Stanley Cup champion, 22 years old. Conn Smythe winner. That's some heavy stuff.
It is, and he did it 3. He won the cup 3 times, and you think about that accomplishment and what he meant, and a great franchise like the Chicago Blackhawks. It needed life breathed into it. The New York Rangers are a great NHL franchise. They need life breathed into it, and he did that. That's why I asked the question, and there's no lack of other names that we are players or faces. Anyway, I just wanted to ask you that as he goes back in there. I think it's going to be. I can't wait to watch it tonight because I think it's going to be a phenomenal scene.
Awesome. That's what we do here at Frankly Hockey. We chop it up. Just throw stuff at us.
Yeah.
Hey, Craig, have a great day. Stay warm.
Have a good day,
Looks
too.
cold.
Thanks.
All right. Craig Button, beautiful view outside that window. Looked like a painting. It's cold everywhere.
What it looks
Frank.
like outside my window now.
Yeah. Well, let's ask the insider. This was going to be my Franks and Beans portion, but then I saw it in the rundowns. I brought it down to the Anaheim Ducks announced, again, we just missed this on Friday, that Leo Carlsson sidelined 3 to 5 weeks. Surgery on Friday to treat a lesion in his left thigh. 3 to 5 weeks, Frank. Olympics? Jeopardy?
The Anaheim Ducks are hoping that it's not. They're hoping that he can heal up quickly from this and just sort of skate into Milan by the hair of his chin. It's too early to read yet as to whether or not they truly are in jeopardy. And I did see some people say, oh, his Olympics are over. This means that's it. Well, not yet. So buckle up. And what a go it's been for Sweden. I mean, Landeskog, who we talked about in this show, William Nylander is not on the ice and doesn't even have a timeline to be on the ice with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Suddenly his Olympics is sneaky in question. And then you add in this Carlsson one, and it's tough for him for sure, and for the Ducks, because, man, what a skid they had been on. Now this 3 to 5 week timeline, I'm optimistic, relatively optimistic, that he'll find a way, but they're going to need to give him a little bit to heal up.
Yeah, if it's 3 weeks, he's fine. If it's 5, he's not. So maybe that's why they did that, to play conservative. But these athletes tend to beat the timeline. And if it is 3 to 5, it tends to be the lower end. Not always. Sometimes.
And it's not muscular, right? That's the thing, is like removing
right.
a lesion on your thigh. I mean, it's like, do you need to wait for the wound to heal up? How sore is it? But it's not like
Probably
you're trying to come back from what we believe is a Braden Point MCL sprain. That's a different story.
Right. Hashtag hockey. Did the Sabres do Kesselring dirty? Did the Sabres, the own organization, did they do their defenseman, Michael Kesselring, dirty? What do you mean by that, Frank?
Did they ever? Take a look at this. You know how they have those, like, sometimes they do like celebrity lookalikes? Well, this one was a drawing.
Yeah, it was Children's Day. The kids were on the PA system, and then they were throwing up.
Murdered him.
Wow.
I'd like to report a murder. Look at that nose. Looks like a chicken leg.
They didn't anticipate he would get in a fight, but yeah, it worked out well. It worked out well for the kid.
That's tough. That is a tough go. That is oof, not good.
I think that kid's got a few. That looks like almost like a Picasso to me. That's what all art looks like to me. What that kid drew. To me, that's like the best Picasso ever did.
That nose is definitely Picasso.
Isn't that amazing?
Work of
art. Looks like Picasso to me. All right, you got to speculate to accumulate in life, and Frank is on the positive side this year on Frankly Hockey. And what do you got? What do you got tonight? Big board. You can go anywhere. Yep. Don't do us dirty, Frank.
Nope, and got a win on Friday night. Ducks, as you mentioned, sweeping the Freeway Series with the Kings. They got us a win on the money line. So going Islanders puck line in Vancouver tonight. The Canucks have been pretty much an abject disaster the last month plus. Only team in the league south of a 400 points percentage. The Islanders, this is a chance to make some hay. And so I'm seeing a New York Islanders win by 2 or more, plus a juicy plus 165 on the road. And man, that would be a nice ticket. These odds courtesy of our friends at BetMGM. When you are plus money, plus 12.4, you get to take a little risk like this. So we'll risk 1 unit for a plus 1.65 return. Let's see what happens.
All right, second place in the Metro. They're a good road team. They got 12 road wins this year. Sorokin might be your Vezina leader. He's been outstanding this year for them. He's been going, and they're 5-4 in their last 10. So this would be a game I think they'll focus on and be dialed, Frank, to give it their best and try to get the 2 points that they quite frankly should get. All right, the last word is Nuge. Not nougat. I'm a big nougat fan, but it's the Nuge. First Oiler to hit all 1,000 games played in a Oiler uniform. That's a bit surprising. 32 years old. And last night, as we mentioned, he scored in his first NHL game against the Penguins, and he scored last night in his 1,000th NHL game.
It really is a crazy stat, and this was the goal from last night. But it's a crazy stat in the sense that he's the first Oiler to get to it all in that uniform. There's only been one other player, and it was earlier this season that someone actually played in their 1,000th game in an Oiler jersey. So that was the first time that ever happened. So the decade of darkness, Peter Pocklington selling off players. I mean, the Oilers never really had the sort of longevity. And man, he's a very special player who has a special relationship with that team and that community. He is a really well-liked individual and someone that is really part of the fabric of it all, from seeing it through from the decade of darkness to 2 cup finals. Pretty special night for Ryan Nugent-Hopkins last night.
Yeah, point per game guy just once in his 14 years. This is his 15th year, but he might do it this year. 40 points in 41 games. Yeah, of course, the Oilers came into the NHL around 1980. They were this young team about to explode, but then financial issues. They all want to get paid. They weren't going to get paid there, so they basically all left. You would think maybe one guy would have hung around for 1,000. And then they're basically chasing. Then they're the lottery winner every year, and still surprising. Now we'll see what happens with this latest iteration, how many will stick around to 1,000 if they'll make it. But again, that shows you how rare that number is. And but still a bit surprising. He's the first. They've been there now 45 years.
Yeah, Kevin Lowe had 966 games in his first run, went to the Rangers, won another cup, but then came back for his last season and a half and added some more. So he got to 1,037 in an Oiler uniform. Nuge will pass that, of course, to become the all-time games played leader, but it's not really the same thing.
And Edmonton, back-to-back shutouts.
How about that?
Got some goaltending. Yeah. All right. Anything to add, Frank?
Yeah, I do. Wanted to just send our condolences. I don't know if you saw the AHL game in Laval. A Rocket fan had a medical emergency during the game, and he ended up passing away. They had to halt the game and actually didn't resume it. Michel Pelletier is his name, and he ended up passing away on Saturday. So wanted to send our best wishes to his family. Big Rocket fan, and really sad to see. You know, you go and watch your team play and don't come home. It's really tough to think about.
Yeah, hockey has so many levels, from kids all the way to the NHL and all in between. People love their teams. They love to root for their local community teams. It's part of the fabric of the game, and we feel it. The players feel it. The broadcasters feel it. There's nothing like the contact with the fans in arenas and the concourses, and people like that. There's just what makes the game what it is. So absolutely share those condolences to everyone in Laval. For Frank Seravalli, I am John Buccigross. Thank you always for watching Frankly Hockey. We will see you tomorrow.